Hello, hello, hello. I am back again and yeah, we still have the mic audio quality thing. I promise I will be done with this soon. I just wanted to make sure that I got all of these thoughts out before I forgot them because I do have, too many thoughts inside my head at all times. That being said, before I forget, please like, share and subscribe. Also, shout out to the Patreons, shout out to the editor, shout out to you, the lovely viewers, and let's get into it. We're back on writing topics again today, and the reason why I'm bringing up writing topics is because, drum roll please, or horn, is because I have noticed that for whatever reason in books, specifically in books, people do this and it honestly boggles my mind. And I noticed that this happens to a lot of able-bodied people, and I'm really glad if you caught on to the able-bodied. I want to talk about disabilities in books. Now, I'm not afraid to say this anymore because I just kind of really don't care. When I was 25, I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I've had it ever since. It's the reason why in a lot of my videos, my words are slurred, sometimes I stutter over words, and in general, it kind of sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about. It's not because I don't know what I'm talking about, it's actually a side effect of the MS. I had to relearn how to walk, how to see correctly, and also I had to go to a speech therapist because I had forgotten how to form words correctly. Now, my disability is taken care of now. I get my medicine, I keep keeping positive attitude, all that other jazz. So there's no reason to worry about me. I'm doing fine. But I wanted to bring up the topic of disability in writing is because I've noticed that a lot of able-bodied authors, or what I assume to be able-bodied authors, seem to write in characters with disabilities and somehow it magically just, gets taken away because of magic or something. And I feel like, no, that shouldn't be how a disability works. Disabilities tend to come internally. Specifically for my MS, it is a sickness born from my own autoimmune system. So you trying to hand wave it away with magic or whatever doesn't work, because you're basically saying the magic would have to rewrite me on a molecular level so that way my actual immune system no longer views my nerves as a vile contagion that they must fight at all times and win. It's the same thing whenever I see people write disability characters and then all of a sudden, oh, their body's magically fixed and everything. And I find it disingenuous because I understand it. You don't want to have to try and write, or if you are comfortable writing with it, you're trying to get it to a more mainstream audience. And I'm here to tell you, either don't write your characters with a disability or you need to commit to the disability. The reason why I bring this up is because so many times I've seen YA romances where no, the characters got a disability at the end of the book because of all the stuff they went through, ha ha ha, and then they don't do anything with it. It's briefly mentioned, if at all, or inferred, right? Worse, and then it's never touched on again. And I find it aggravating, is because if you're going to write a character with a disability, number one, you have to make it to where the disability either is very prominent and a super important part of their lives, or it is a disability that the character is very, very aware of, but the other characters in your book are not made aware of it until all of a sudden it's a shocking revelation of, why didn't you tell us you had this? Well, first of all, it's none of your business, and second of all, you didn't ask. So why should I tell you? You either have to pick one or the other. Case in point, I know, I'm sorry, the book I'm writing, and you guys are probably sick and tired of hearing about it. In the book I'm writing, the female main lead, because I based it off of my own personal experience, has MS. Now, throughout the entire book, she's just constantly tired. And when I gave it to one of my beta readers, and they got to the revelation that she had MS, their first reaction was, I just thought she was always tired because she's bored. I didn't make the connection that maybe she was sick. I was like, you're correct. It's the reason why the male lead in the book, right, because he's a vampire and he can smell her constantly, when he smells that she kind of smells like burnt sugar, he just assumes that's her natural smell. He doesn't make the connection that it's the medicine that she takes for her MS until point blank it's told to him by another vampire who's not basically falling in love with the female main lead of, she's sick, right? That's what that smell is. You can smell it underneath the burnt sugar. She's dying. Now, the reason why I say this is because in the book, I actually debated really hard if I wanted to go the traditional route of hand wave away the disability with the magic and everything in my book. And I realized, why? Why should I have to have the sickness that I know a lot about because I'm actively living in it to make other people feel comfortable? I want to say this for everybody, including the cheap seats in the back row. Somebody else's disability, just because it makes you uncomfortable to talk about it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So get off your high horse about it and go have a cookie. Jesus Christ. I decided to double down and be like, no. Because the male lead basically makes the case of, hey, I can turn you into a vampire. It'll get rid of all of your stuff and you'll live forever and you'll never age and blah blah blah. And she point blank tells him no. And she tells him no is because you can't just magically make me better. That's not fair. Because what about all the other people who have this that don't have a cool magical boyfriend or whatever, that don't get to get a get out of jail free card? And he has no answer for this. All he is now focused on is, I want to make her better because I don't want to lose her. Because he has seen people die from this disease and it's aggravating to him. It bothers him a lot because it is a sickness that not only is coming from the inside, it is a sickness born specifically because there are scars on the brain actively messing with how the body views itself. I had to get told this, right? My brain is littered with scars. It's the reason why I sometimes have a hard time finding words. It's the reason why I honestly sometimes still can't walk in a straight line. I'm getting better. I'm finally able to walk backwards. I know to you hearing it, probably you don't care. To me, it was a big accomplishment because I hadn't realized I'd been in the middle of a flare-up for quite a long time until it got so bad that I was actually in dark places mentally that I was like, I am not normally like this. I wonder what's going on with me. So I had to take an interventive step and figure it out. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because there's plenty of cartoons and melodramas and stuff that do actually tackle the subject of chronic illness pretty well. And they say pretty well is because there's always some element of why it can magically be fixed. And I'm like, this is the fantasy in most properties, right? That your world is so perfect that the sickness that is actively hurting your main character can just be hand waved away because you want them to be happy. And I realized I didn't want to do that is because that's not how disabilities work in real life. Sure, right? If there was a magic end-all be-all cure for people's disabilities of any kind, mental, physical, combination thereof, of course they would take it. It's not like we want to be living with the disability. But, and I cannot stress this enough, but you don't want to just have it be given to you with some ulterior Faustian undertone to it because, well, what does me getting better cost me? Which is actually what the female main lead thinks about when she's thinking of the male main lead's offer to turn her into a vampire to get rid of it. It sounds really good, but what would she have to give up to gain this? And she realizes all she really has left and all she really can throw over him that he doesn't have is her humanity. And if her humanity means she still has to live with her sickness that is very slowly crippling her, then she'll live with it because she doesn't want to turn into a monster like he is and he'll always be at his core if it means that she gets better, because she doesn't want to sacrifice what she knows her values are. Like, she does evidently. Later on in the book, you come to find out the super secret dark plot, but I'm not going to spoil that because when the book is published... Who said that? When the book is published, you get to find out the reason. The point is, if you're going to write disabilities in your book, okay, then please write them tastefully. Because as somebody with a disability, I have gotten aggravated beyond all belief about how people just seem to not want to actually go all in and talk about this. And I'm not saying that, hey, don't write disabled characters if you're not disabled. By all means, if you're able-bodied, go outside of your comfort zone, do some research, ask somebody who might be experiencing the disability you want to write about, and talk to them about it. Now, my beta readers did point this out to me before I decided to make this audio. They said that the main villain, when he is first introduced, is deaf, but because he makes a deal with a demon in one of the books, he suddenly has the ability to... I'm sorry, I said that wrong. He's not deaf. He becomes deaf. He was actually born mute, and he later on gets the ability to speak. And I looked at them and I was like, right. Remember what he did, though. He made a deal with a demon from hell. Demons don't make deals for your benefit, they do it for their benefit. So yes, it is technically hand-waving away and magicking his disability away, but there is a cost to what it can do for him. Because a demon is the one that gave him this ability, and you have to question whose voice box did he give you so you could talk. Because it's not free, right? The voice that he gets, it's not his. He knows it's not his, but he doesn't care. Because he got all the power he wanted, and now he has the ability to talk. And he's always had a kind of hatred for his lack of being able to speak because his father would throw it back in his face. Now, I know I said this, right? And I know people will probably bring this up, and again, it's the way I wrote my book is because, yes, technically I did hand wave away his disability, but not really, because when you get further into the book series, you come to find out, no, the deal you made is loaded with clauses and what-ifs and pitfalls that very easily you could have fallen into if you had basically done anything like grow a conscience and realize, oh man, I'm actually really being horrible to all of these people for absolutely no good reason. But he doesn't. I had to crank him up all the way to 11 to be the bad guy. And I want to stress this, right? You can write characters that are disabled, of color, of being on the LGBTQ spectrum as villains, but you actually have to make them human before you make them anything else. I had to work for quite a long time to iron out my villain and make him as perfect as possible, because when I first started writing him, he was actually the main character of the book series, and I realized the more that I was writing him, he would have worked better as the villain, so I had to make him into the villain to do that. Now, I realize that that might sound counterproductive, but there's a reason why it isn't, and it is, but it isn't. The reason why I'm saying it is and it isn't is because if you can figure out what your characters are going to be in your story before you do anything else, and if you decide, okay, this is what the character is best suited for, and this is what I absolutely need to double down on to make them the best version of themselves specifically in this story, fine, it will work. But everything else that follows after it will have to come as supplementary material. And this is what I mean, right? Technically speaking, the male main lead, who is the king of vampires, that's what he is. He's the king of vampires. He is the second main protagonist in the book, and he is a very all-powerful, all-knowing, super old vampire. And he does end up becoming kind of, at the very least, the anti-hero of the story. Here's the kicker, right? When I had to write the backstory and everything for him, other than him being, the pop star formerly known as Cain, born from Adam and Eve, I had to figure out, well, I guess we're gonna have to reanalyze what he would be like if he was just a normal person. And I eventually settled on something that might sound just a little controversial. He's pansexual, and he's pansexual is because he's had plenty of jailers from the main female lead's family that have been actively using the curse against him that the family placed on him to keep him under their thumb. So he's slept with all of them, whether they were gay, straight, bi, male, female, or female to female transitioning or whatever. So long as they were down for it, he would sleep with them. In the very broadest, most bullshitty terms, he's pansexual. And I put that in there as a, okay, put the pin in that, we'll come back to it. Counterpoint, the female main lead, the more that I was writing her, the more that I realized, she actually really doesn't like or dislike anybody or anything in any particular way. And she actually is asexual. So I had to laugh at myself is because, oh man, that's fucking hilarious. And here's the reason why. Is because it is not unheard of for asexual people, not aromantic, right? I'm talking specifically asexuality, meaning sex is not a big part of their repertoire, but they do still fall in love and how to have companionship and everything else. So even though she has absolutely no interest in sex, when he ends up falling in love with her and they begin a relationship, the reason why it is funny is because he's super, super duper old, and he has been around the block quite a few times. So, in all honesty, it makes sense that she is just not interested at all, but she goes along with what she thinks he would like sex-wise, because she doesn't particularly care either way, as long as it makes him happy. On the other hand, he is actually pulling back on how much he wants sex because it makes her happy, because her relationship starts to boil down to being content with each other and starting to, yeah, that's the word, borrow each other's little things that they do. Like, he didn't used to bite his nails, but she does. So now he bites his nails, not to her extreme because she bites it down to the quick. He just bites them a normal amount because his nails grow fast. From him, she's starting to borrow the, very politely, the resting bitch face. And that's what happens when you shack up with somebody and you really love them. You start to borrow things from their playbook because it works, because you are starting to cohabitate with each other. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just a thing that happens in relationships. So, that's why I'm talking about disability specifically, is because as much as he loves her in my book, the disability comes as a very big shock to him because he didn't know about it until somebody else told him, and he took it really hard, which is how some people in real life take learning about the disabilities of their loved ones. They take it really, really personally. And they take it really personally is because they begin to ask the question of, maybe we can do something? Can we do anything? Is there a way to fix you? And they're not trying to say that because they want you to be normal. They're saying that because they want you to be better. Big difference, right? Now, the only time that I've seen, well, anything disability-wise that I was kind of more or less impressed with was actually in the Marvel movies, actually. I know that is a really weird segue, but hear me out. For all intents and purposes, right, Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy is more or less disabled because without his fancy little headgear, whatever goes on top of his head that makes the whistle go, he's not as good at the whistling trick that he can kill everybody with. So I always interpret it as, yes, technically speaking, it's a disability. If he doesn't have his makeshift assistant aid, he doesn't really work as well. He can still do stuff, it's harder for him to do it. Even better one for one comparison, Bucky Barnes. Because he has a mechanical arm, an arm that he lost, and the arm supplements the arm that he needs for everyday life. Now, he eventually gets a new one and all that other stuff, but it's a nice way of saying, technically, he's disabled, which is good, and that's fine. Now, I'm not saying that Marvel did a great job with their disability representation. I'm saying that they made it very obvious of the physical disabilities. I'm not even going to touch on Tony Stark and his very obvious PTSD from what happened to him in Afghanistan. It's a whole separate video. But I'm bringing this up is because if you're going to write the disability, you either need to commit to it or don't commit to it at all, because it's actually aggravating as somebody who is disabled that sometimes people are just like, oh no, it's fine, we'll just bring it up to get clout for it and then go away, ha ha ha. It's annoying. Now, I can hear you probably saying, it's a little hypocritical of you, don't you think? You literally hand-waved away your main villain's disability. True, but there's a story reason for that, and it comes back to bite him later. So it's not that he got the disability removed for freebies. He got the disability removed because it was leverage that the demon was going to use against him later. Big difference. That's what I'm talking about. Like, if you're gonna hand wave away the disability, you're gonna have to find a reason why. So you need to commit to it. You gotta do it. That's it. That's all I wanted to talk about. I promise this will be the last time I bring up the book. I mean, I hope so anyway. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe like I asked, or share, or can, or anything like that. Again, it's up to you. Big shout out to the patrons, and big shout out to my editor. I hope you guys all have an amazing rest of your day. Bye!